Well, we continue with our season of the octave of Easter, so we are in the Easter season. I hope you like white and gold, because you'll be seeing plenty of white and gold for a long time, and it's a special time in the church, and we have to remember that it isn't permanent. Like all of the seasons, it has its time. It comes and goes. I do really appreciate in what we call the extraordinary form, the Latin Mass. We have that at 12:30 p.m. every Sunday here at 12:30 p.m. and you're certainly welcome to consider attending it if you've never tried it. That after we get through the Easter season, in that calendar, it is referred to as Sundays after Pentecost. So they don't have ordinary time. Instead, they maintain an Easter connection the entire year. And really, how appropriate is that? Because really, the entire liturgical year, as such, is either preparation for Easter or a reflection and contemplation of Easter after it has happened. The entire year is centered in Easter. It's the greatest feast we have. If you only wanted to go to Mass one day, that should be Easter. I'm obviously not recommending that, but I'm saying that would be the day you should go. And so, living in that very recent, that glow of that event, we reflect with the Acts of the Apostles. And so we'll be hearing a lot of the Acts of the Apostles in these next many days. And what I'm going to be doing really this weekend with the Divine Mercy, but really with this as well, is I want to really go back to apologetics. I'm going to, whether you enjoy apologetics or not, which are basically not apologizing, apologetics is rational discussion as to why we believe. That's what apologetics is, Christian apologetics. I realize that many people do not enjoy apologetics. I say that because no one ever comes to me typically with those kinds of concerns. That's not very frequent. And the truth is that we're living in an age hostile to faith. And there are so many people that I have met that are good Catholic people that could not dismiss even the most elementary attacks on their faith. Like, they have no idea how to justify what they believe. Like, they couldn't do it. And so that's not the best way to live. As Catholics, we are called and encouraged to know what we love, to allow ourselves to know better what we love, and to realize that maybe you love Jesus very, very deeply. Maybe he's very real to you, but there are many people that maybe you could reach who need to have him explained a bit, maybe have him argued for a bit, and in a way that isn't just emotions, but is real, is based on knowledge and research. And so look at this. We'll read from Acts today. If the gospel writers were trying to sell an impossible story, a man that is resurrected from the dead, which had never happened, right? Not this kind of thing, not after being tortured for hours, You'd think that they would write this story to say, and his disciples immediately believed him. They were like, Lord, you're back, and this time you're going to bring the hammer down on all those people. And you would think that they would be so positive about his followers, despite the absence of reasons to believe. They hung on. They hung on. Well, that's not actually what happens. You would also think that they would compliment Peter and John as brilliant scholars of the law, as great, educated, high-class men. Observing the boldness of Peter and John and perceiving them to be uneducated, ordinary men. Okay, so maybe we're not doing that part perfectly. Okay, so what do we see? We see that the resurrection is real. We see that the resurrection is apparently so known to the people of this time that something big has happened, that the Pharisees and the scribes and the leaders are just at a loss as to how to cover this up. And when Peter heals a man who was suffering from a very severe illness, they have yet a further problem, because how do you deal with these men doing the same acts and deeds that Jesus himself did? Jesus' miracles attested to his having a power greater than nature, and even having a power that was given by God. And Peter and the other apostles are able to do similar signs. And so they're at a loss. They're at a loss how to deal with them. And, remember that they still had the problem of Lazarus. Lazarus had been resuscitated by Jesus. He had been brought back from death. And Lazarus was walking around, living proof that Jesus is something really special. So we look at that today, and then we go on to the gospel, right? And so the gospel here just takes us back to the morning of Easter. And so, again, let's remember, if we're going to write a fake account that is going to kind of just push this impossible story, we have got to make it as believable as possible. So the apostles were sold. They were all about it. The movement was starting. The way was going strong. So Mary Magdalene experiences an appearance of the risen Jesus. And going back to the men, she tells them, and they don't believe. Okay, well, this is not a good start there, okay? And then two of them are walking along the way to the country. This is probably the Emmaus walk, right? That's probably just the Emmaus walk. And they come back and tell the rest of the apostles, and they don't believe them either. And then finally, all of them are at table, and Jesus appears to them and says, I'm starting to get kind of thin on my patience. Okay, I'm here, and so he tells them to go out. He gives them the Great Commission. The Great Commission, as Bishop Kinnaman goes back to over and over, to go out, to evangelize, to bring the good news to everyone. But notice that Jesus is patient with them. He is patient with them. And so my point with this is that you can believe. You can believe. That the way all of this is written is to both express the faith of those who wrote the Gospels and the canon of Scripture, but also to allow us to have a glimpse into the real challenges of this. To be persecuted, to die for something that you're not really sold on is a terrible way to live, right? But we realize that if these men and women did not find it easy to accept that Christ his promises were true, he had resurrected, and that he called them to this new and higher life, it's not easy for us either. The question for us becomes, not only do I believe, but do I act? Do I act? Why is my belief over here and my behavior all the way over here? Why is it that I profess to believe in all this stuff, but the way I act would honestly, put some non-Christians, if they knew me, be like, wow, look at that, right? So we have to try to close that gap. And so again, I want to encourage you to actually lean into this, learning about your faith, learn about what you believe. Don't be one of those people that cannot defend it at all, that has nothing there other than just maybe some emotions and things like that. Lean into it, discover what you believe, watch Formed. If The Chosen is helpful to you, that's great. Remember, The Chosen is not Catholic teaching. It's not Catholic teaching. Okay, there's a commentary on Formed that explains Catholic responses to scenes that are not that Catholic in The Chosen, but I'm not against The Chosen. If it helps you to discover Jesus, within the church, then that's great. And so we want to continue to more and more become people that can proclaim the gospel, as he says, to every creature.